Us humans, we don't really live life in this constant state. It's this unpredictable, random, and fluid state where you don't experience something good all the time, but you don't experience bad all the time either. So sometimes you could go from here and then sometimes you go from there. And in this video, I wanted to like focus on what happens to people if they experience something bad. And I would like to share my experience on how I handled it and what's my experience like, just so you could avoid my mistakes and maybe learn something from this video. Um, if you haven't already, I don't know what type of audience am I hearing this, but I'm assuming that you're from in the make money online space, in the online business space. And I actually found this space around 2 years ago. And during that time, I was highly motivated. I had a lot of driving force actually to start a business or at least research or try to learn or try to implement something so I could make money. And along the way, there I realized that even though I was so motivated about it, there were some sort of limiting beliefs or there were some sort of mental health problems that I was still facing. Like my self image was shit back then. So there were times where I really wanted to do something or I really want to like risk something or like start something to actually make me money, but then myself would actually hold myself back from actually proceeding that. And it came from my bad experiences from the past, and I'm letting that sort of, you know, stay with me or making that making that the reason why I'm not doing those things that I'm supposed to do. And that was around senior high, but then even then back then, like a few months from now, I recently had like a breakup from someone. It was a girl, and I kind of lost momentum after that. There were times in my life where I genuinely got depressed because something bad happened to me, and then I've made that the reason why I'm not pushing forward or not doing something better than that situation. And I realize that whenever I experience something bad, I tend to slow down a lot from my progress, like really, really slow down. As in, I would go for months or even weeks of like being depressed and not doing anything to progress. I mean, it's not that bad that I don't do shit all the time. Sometimes I go to the gym, sometimes I go, read books and try to do something, at least do something to improve myself. But it's not 100% of effort. It's always this half-ass type of thing. And it was really it was really disappointing for me now that I look back at my journey, look back at my life, that I'm using all these experiences to slow me down or let it get inside my head too much that I don't really take action to do something about it. Because there were generally times in my life that I experienced something bad and I lose so much momentum, so much progress to the point where I try to start something. It's like this endless cycle of I'm reaching this type of like progress and then something bad happens and then I go all the way down, and I'm letting that reason I'm letting that experience be the reason why I can't do anything like above that or I can't bounce back from that. And it's genuinely annoying, or it annoyed I was annoyed by myself that why was I using these excuses to like not do shit about this. And I realized that it's not the problems itself that was the problem. It's more like how I reacted to those problems. And And someone could get the same type of experience. They could, if I could copy paste my experience to a different person who's more motivated, who's more disciplined, who's more resilient, they react to that situation very, very differently. They would have just said, you know what, this is not gonna let me down, and I could just snap my finger, and then 5 minutes later, after done crying, after done being sad, I could now keep going and keep doing what I'm supposed to do. That was not the case for me. When I experienced these bad events that happened to my life, I let it consume me. I let it get into my head to the point where it didn't let me take the steps or do the actions that I needed to take so I could actually improve myself and actually make progress to my journey. And if you're someone like this, because I met someone who also dealt with a similar situation. I'm not gonna say his information because it's private, but basically he was in this sales program, and then it was in high ticket sales, and in there you should they were obligated to post their like calls or recording of their calls to see if what could the coach could improve. So they post their calls to them so the coaches could review it and then they fix their errors. So this guy that I met in this Discord server expressed that he was so scared of posting his calls because it was too like he wasn't really proud of those calls. He wasn't really proud of like the call he made or the recording. He thought that his tonality or whatever it is, his performance was really bad to the point where he got scared. And not only that, that's not the only reason. The only reason also is, or the other reason actually is, he saw his friends graduating while he was still in school because he was into this like high ticket space, and then he felt behind and he felt demotivated that he didn't take any action, or he completely stopped doing high ticket sales for like almost a year because he was so demotivated and he was so like discouraged of that experience. And now when I called him, he confessed that he's now going back into the space. He's now re-practicing back on what he learned, and now he's trying to gain back momentum. And it really resonated with me because it was very similar to mine. And he even said that he, really saw myself in me. But that's the point that I'm making is that you could have a lot of bad experiences, but it's how you react to it that is more important. Because to mine, you know, these experiences, I could have just handled it differently. If I could just say, you know what, I'm not gonna let this like be the catalyst of my fucking failure or why I'm not taking the steps that I'm supposed to do. I'm just gonna let it all out. I'm just gonna, you know, feel sad. I'm gonna cry, but the next day I will continue back on my journey and I will continue improving and I will not let this stop me. But that wasn't the case for me because I was really demotivated and to the point where I didn't even take action for almost like months. And it would be this endless cycle. Okay, I go to this bad experience and then it will slow me down very, very low. And I would slowly get back on track and then something happens again and I would go even lower and I will not take action even longer. And it's a shitty cycle that I'm in, which I'm trying to fix. But that is the thing. If you're someone who's really, really mentally resilient and who's good at really bouncing back regardless of what happens to you, then you would very, very be sort of unstoppable. Really, you'd be bulletproof because it really is a mind game. Because if you think about it, you could just sort of just shift like your perspective on the situation. Like, you could just reframe it, or you could just flip your current situation into something good, or you could make something bad into an opportunity. And that's something that I realized a little too late. But I'm now rebuilding my momentum and now rebuilding my, I'm taking the first steps over and over again, and I'm relearning some of the things that I forgot because I didn't take actions or I didn't try and, you know, get back on track. And, if you're someone out there who's in a similar boat as mine, like it's totally okay to experience something bad and be demotivated. But what I am telling you to do is, as much as possible, don't sit there in that same spot. I'm telling you right now. You could just experience that bad event, take all the emotion in, because we're all humans, bro. It's so normal to be sad. It's normal to cry. It's normal to be discouraged. But the problem with that is when you get like beaten down, when you trip, the problem isn't actually tripping down. The problem is like getting back up after. And to most people, I'm not this person yet, but most people out there fail at one thing, or they have this really really bad experience and they never try again. And although I've failed and although I've lost momentum, I'm never the type of person that, just because some bad happens to me, I will completely stop it. I will eventually get back on track and try to rebuild it. But there's some people out there who experience something really really bad, and they would just make the decision, just, what, fuck this shit, and then they completely stop what they're doing, they completely stop what they're building, and they just pivot or stay in the same spot for like their whole life. So if you're someone who experienced something that really really discouraged you, it's completely okay to be sad about it. What's bad about it is staying in that same spot. I think that's the greatest lesson that I've learned, is that I could experience all these things, but as long as I don't give up and as long as I eventually get back on track and rebuilding that momentum, you're completely fine. To be honest, you're completely fine. And at least you're not those people who completely stop, because eventually, as long as you just never gave up on what you're trying to do, and then just keep getting back up every time you fucking fail or every time you trip or every time you get beaten down, all those experiences will be just those lessons, and all those experiences that you get to say when you're actually successful. All of these, I see bad experiences now as these stories that I'm going to tell eventually when I get successful. I don't let these like bad experiences try to beat me down too much, or at least like now though. I used to be beaten down by them. I stay in the same spot for a long time, but now I'm trying to avoid that situation again, because it really costs you your time. That's what I realize, is that whenever you're stuck in the same spot, it costs you a lot of time. And time is way more valuable than money, to be honest. And you feel this surge of regret if you felt like you wasted so much time. You could have done something better, but you didn't. But I can't really do much about it. I can't go back in time. But what I can do is literally just try to rebuild the momentum and try to relearn and try to take the first steps again so I could actually get back on my journey and get back on track. As long as you just kept going and just trying to get back on track and not get stuck in a rut, you're completely fine. Just don't stay in the same spot, just like I had, because it will cost you a lot of time and it will make you regret so hard that you didn't do shit or you didn't do something about it as much as possible. And yeah, if you're in the same boat as me, if you feel like you already experienced this, I completely get your experience, and I'm also in the same boat. But all you need to do is just get back to it, man.